Hey, everybody, and welcome to the HERstory Collaborative. My name is Jen Buck, and I'm your host here in the Collab. Now, I'm all about advocating, activating, and amplifying high-performing women, and that's really what the HERstory Collaborative is all about. Trailblazing women who are changing their corner of the world. Now, my next guest is someone that I used to work with for years, and we were both in the 90s working at a startup in the first 10 years of their inception, and she's someone that I have watched do incredible things in her career. Her name is Jenney Floyd. Jenney Floyd is an RN and the founder of Next Level Nursing. She was a registered nurse. She's got 10 years of experience in SICU and ER, and she's been a charge nurse, team lead, preceptor, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. She's a great nurse. Actually, she's a fantastic nurse. But she spent the last years of her life hating her job. Now, she loved being a nurse, but she hated her job. So she made some changes and she learned some things along the way. And she made a solid decision that she was not going to spend another second unhappy in her career. And that has been fantastic for her because she has founded Next Level Nursing. Jenney has incredible conferences that she does for women who are women and men. Yikes, listen to me, Jen. For women and men who are in the nursing field. And these are all about helping these nurses find the spark, find the joy, love what they do, and get back to the bedside and do their magic. So, Jenney, I am so glad to have you. Welcome to the Collab.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. So we used to work together years ago at Discover Card in the 90s. Yes. And then at some point you left the state and I kept working there for a bit. And then I ended up leaving the state. And since then, I was doing a conference, and at this huge conference that had like 34,000 people at it, I was up on stage, got off, and tell the rest of the story.
So I was sitting in the audience, and the funny part is now the title just went out of my brain. The title of your session, your workshop, I had thought a friend of mine would really benefit from it, right? Because it was all about girl power and confidence. And so I registered she and I, thinking she needed this. It would be good for her because that's the kind of ass I am. And then, and she ended up not going. She ended up not being there. And so I went to your workshop anyway. And as I was sitting there now, and we had lost touch.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in the workshop, and the more you talk, I'm like, she looks just like her. She looks just like her. And so while I miss half the beginning of the conference because I'm Googling, I'm trying to find you because I had tried on social media and I just hadn't for whatever filter was keeping us apart.
Yes.
And it wasn't coming together. And then you kept talking and I was like, I know this story. I know this whole story. Yeah. She grew up in California. She had a bunch of boy cousins. And then you're telling the story. I'm like, I know all of this. Yeah. So then I am standing in line. And the workshop was so impactful that I'm back behind. There's a line of 12 people, more than 12 people, but I'm that far back to talk to you. And you were being very gracious to all of these people. And of course, their women were crying and you really touched me and they're going through all this thing. And I was like, these hookers have got to hurry up. I got to get to the front of that line. Like I can't, Yeah. And so I yelled. So I yelled from my place in line. I'm like, did you work at Discover Card? And you were like, who's talking, you weirdo? Yeah.
Yes.
And then, and you had been so good to me at Discover Card. Like there were some very specific decisions that you had impacted in my life that came back around later and benefited me, and so, and we didn't have social media and we didn't keep in touch. That was back when you lost touch with friends. Yeah. There was no, and so it was just this full circle moment for me that reconnecting with this person who had been so impactful and so good and kind and nice to me. And we call that the dark year of my life because it wasn't my best years there. And so when I finally get to the front of the line, having mentally made fun of all the women crying, like, come on, hurry up, get it out. And then I get up there and do you remember this? Then I ugly face cried. I was like, And in that moment, I didn't even care if you remembered me. It didn't even matter if you remembered
Well, you
me.
kept
I
saying that.
remembered you. I remembered you. And that was the important, that was the thing. It was really a great moment for me. Honestly, it was just a great moment. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and you kept saying to me, it's okay if you don't remember me. It's okay if you don't remember me. And I was like, I do though. I do. I will that face and that voice, like I will never forget that. And so that was actually cool for us because it allowed us to finally reconnect. And now we're doing all this work together, which is just incredible,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And by the way, I
Yes.
have really great memories of that time, but it did take me a second when you were like, did you work for Discover Card? I was like, gosh, who is that? And the minute you started talking, I was like, it's Jenney. So
I
yeah,
was probably like, dear God, don't let her remember me. Dear God, don't let her remember me.
so bad, so bad.
Such a crazy person that year. I was just, yeah,
Yeah,
young 20s,
but
right?
it was
Young
also
20s.
lots of fun. It was lots of
It
fun.
was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I agree. I agree with that. We had a lot of fun, and that was good fun. I
Yes,
agree.
yes.
Yeah.
So since we sort of lost touch back in the 90s, you then went back to nursing school or went to nursing school.
I
And
did. I
tell us
did.
a little bit about that because you've now done a lot in your career in terms of the different areas you've worked in and the different hospitals you've gone to through COVID. And so just give us a snapshot of what's gone on.
I decided to go back to school, and then I focused on nursing. Nursing was something that always kind of just showed up here and there in my life, and then I finally landed on it again. And I was married and had kids. Went back to nursing school, so I didn't graduate from nursing school until I was 35. Um, so then I felt like I was behind. And so I wanted my training, I wanted it fast and furious, and I wanted to see what there was to see. And so I took a position in the surgical ICU at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas, which is the county hospital. And any county hospital, you're going to see a lot, but Parkland is exceptional in terms of the random things that you see and you're exposed to and trained on. And that 4 to 5 years that I spent at Parkland really affected the trajectory of my career. So just having Parkland on my resume has made a huge difference. And the training that you get there is superb. It really gave me a great foundation to go and do whatever I needed to do. I transitioned to the ER about my 5th year of nursing. And then I've been in the ER since then. So about 9, I guess less than that, 8 years in the ER, and then moonlighting in the ICU here and there. And then during the pandemic, when COVID hit, I was actually working from home because I had stepped away from the bedside because I was just burnt out. Stepped away from the bedside, did that for a year, and then felt like I couldn't keep working it from home in my cozy little office, eating ice cream between calls while nurses were just taking a beating. And patient care, that it sounds bad when I say it out loud, but that was not my biggest motivator to go back to the bedside. My biggest motivator was to go back to support nurses and be a part of that. So then I took a position in the neuro ICU in Houston, Texas. And I did that for 10 months throughout the crisis.
Yeah.
And now I'm travel nursing, which I hope to just keep doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever want to be a staff. I don't want to be a full-time employee anywhere.
Yeah.
I'd rather be able to go and do what I want to do and when I want to do it.
So you're still at the bedside, and
Yeah.
there was a point where you were leaving. You had all the things that you have to do in your life, and this was your family and your home and all the things that mattered most to you. And when you were having to leave that to go to work, there was a point where you weren't wanting to go anymore. And it wasn't that you didn't want to nurse anymore. You didn't want to be, at the bedside work, but it was, you didn't love your job anymore. And so what happened at that point?
There were a lot of factors going into that. One day that I can remember in particular is I was on my way to work and I had left my son. My youngest son is type 1 diabetic and his blood sugar was high, and he was going to be fine. I knew he was going to be fine. I didn't leave an unsafe situation, but I left him, my oldest daughter, in charge because my husband was going to be late coming home from work, and they were going to have to text me and call me and double check his blood sugar, and he had to, you know, rest and do all these things and drink a bunch of water, all these things. And I had to pull over on the side of the road because I was crying because I thought, I'm leaving my kids to take care of each other so that I can go take care of other people. But it was just such a conflict for me. So I called into work, and the poor charge nurse that answered, you know, I was just ugly face crying in the car. And she was like, okay, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. She goes, are you driving? No, I had to pull over. I'm like, okay. She's like, okay, thank God. You're not coming to work, right? I'm like, no, that's why I'm calling. I can't come to work. You know, she never even really knew why I was calling in because I was blubbering and she couldn't even understand me, you know. Yeah. She was just like, okay, be safe and go home, you know. Yeah. So there was that conflict in my head. And then we had a number of really stressful events that I felt like were back to back to back. And when I was talking to another nurse, and she was like, no, Floyd, that one was in October, the other one was in February, this one was in March, you know, all of these things were actually over the span of like a year. But in my mind, I had compressed them all. And so they were just right on top of each other. And so when I realized that my brain was doing that and compressing all of these stressful events into these short time spans, well, that's probably not healthy.
No.
And that's what I needed. And that's what I realized I needed to step back. And, you know, you can pepper in there a lot of other stuff with hospital administration decisions and they aren't necessarily on the management level. They're usually the administration level that trickle down. And that was frustrating, you know. And so I hit that point where I realized I was driving to work. I love being a nurse and I didn't want to be there. I was the nurse that showed up, you know, 12-hour shifts, and I was the nurse that was just showing up and just bitching for 12 hours, like just 12 hours of Jenney complaining. Yeah, that's a lot. I just did a shift the other day with a nurse that complained the whole time. I'm like, good Lord, like, you got to find something happy. Yeah. So that was me, you know. And so that's when all of that together, I realized I was going to take a step back and step away from the bedside. And the response I got from management and other friends was that I was going to be bored. I was just going to be so bored. And I was thinking, good, that'll be great. I'll be bored. And so it does. And when you say that to other nurses, and now this was pre-pandemic also, right?
Right.
Say you were burnt out and stressed and you were taking a step away, it made my perception of other people's reaction is that it made them uncomfortable, or they didn't really know what to say, or that you almost felt like you were being weak.
Right.
Like you couldn't handle the stress of the job. Right. And I'm built for the stress of the job. I'm wired for it, you know? And so, being able to step back and just get that clear perspective made a huge difference for me all the way around. In my family life, my home life, my family, my home life is the same thing, that life and my work life, and then making decisions moving forward in my career. Yeah. That break made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. And I think that nurses are wired to handle the stress, the action, the constant change, the drama and trauma, right? And yes, they're wired for it, except they're still human beings. It's like combat soldiers. Right. My dad was in Vietnam, and when he got back, he had post-traumatic stress syndrome. And the fact is, we're still human. Yes, he was prepared for that on some level, right? But it doesn't mean that the brain is immune to what you're dealing with, the stress levels. It's like you talked about with compounding, you know, the timeline. It was several months apart. The brain is on some level in trauma, right? And so it's making everything back to back and causing more pressure on you. And so for me, watching you at the point that you were taking this break, if you will, you were still doing telemedicine, you were still involved and engaged, but you were doing it differently. for your mental health. This is also sort of when I came back into the picture, and you were creating or had created, one or the other, this business that is a conference for nurses, and it's called
Mm-hmm.
Next Level Nursing. So I'm going to guess I know where you're going to go with this, but tell me why you created it first, what it is and why it matters, and why you created it and what your hope is for it.
So Next Level Nursing is a company, and I call it an event company. And I think that has a different connotation currently. And when I chose that phrasing, I didn't fully recognize, but I stuck with it because I like it for different reasons. I think when people think an event company, they obviously think weddings and parties and receptions and, big social events. I chose it because I want it to be conferences, but there's also other events that go on in nursing. Right. And so it is an event company focused on celebrating, educating, and empowering nurses.
Mm-hmm.
So because we have so many events that affect our mental health, our career trajectories, and our family life, just by the nature of being a nurse. So that's what Next Level Nursing is. The path I got to, I remember it was a pretty specific moment, and I was telling my husband about it, and having sitting through your workshop and other workshops at that conference, they were so impactful. And I guess for lack of better word, the vibe in the room when everybody is like-minded. I hate catchphrases, but I love like-minded. It's just short, succinct, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you have a bunch of people in the room that are all working towards the same goal, and maybe they have different ideas of how to get there, but they're on that same path. Yep. It's so impactful, and it gives you different perspectives, and it opens your mind so that, you get more information from other people, different experiences, different perspectives, and then you can take all of that and use it for what you need it for. So having this conversation with my husband and reflecting on the workshop and the conferences that I had just been to, and thinking, if I could just get a bunch of nurses in one room together where we could just hash all this crap out, apologize, and talk
By the way,
about it.
My listeners love shit.
Okay.
I
didn't know if your grandma was listening or something.
Oh, and plus you're a nurse. We fully expect this. Snarky, mouthy broads.
So I just thought, let's get them all together so that we can address the issue. And I think it makes people uncomfortable when you say this part, and heal. Yeah. Because in order for me to recognize I need to heal, then I have to recognize I have this gaping wound. And nurses they're not good at doing that. Yeah. And so that was when I thought all of that, because I thought of this probably in October, and I think we had just reconnected. I think it was like a September thing, yes, right? September. And so, yeah. And so that's when I got on the horn to you and said, hey, let's make this happen. Let's do this conference and get some nurses in the room. And I want young nurses there so we can just set them up for better, when you have habits, good grief, why was that leaving my brain? So you have better professional habits to deal with all the stress of our job instead of drinking. Yeah, right. Which, that's good too. But, if you find any bar in a city that's open at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., I promise you it'll be full of healthcare workers. Wow. The night shift, you know what I mean? The night shift coming off, because that's their happy hour. That's there. And so, but everybody gets there, and that's when you're talking about your shift and you're unloading and debriefing and processing all of that, right? And then go home and sleep and get up and do it again. Yeah. So I thought a conference would be incredibly beneficial and impactful was my goal. Yeah. So when you did the conference that I was a part of in Dallas, and this was March 2020. It
And
was February 29th. It
we
was
were,
leap year.
that's
That's
right.
right.
And we were joking about this COVID that's out there that apparently, have you heard about it? Have you heard about it? Because a bunch of people are getting sick, and should we be even here? Like, we were totally joking about it. And within
Well,
a week, oh no, it was
yeah.
like,
So I remember all of my speakers had to fly in, and I drove to Dallas. So when all the speakers got there, and they were talking about everybody in the airports had masks on, and oh my gosh, have you read about this? And I just kept thinking, no, I have so much shit to do.
yeah,
What are you even talking about? I know the bird flu, swine flu, Ebola. I know it's not coming. It won't happen. Yeah, I know. Got it.
yeah,
Right. Because
yeah,
I had to, like, I was hyper focused on this conference we were getting done. I hadn't even looked up.
yeah,
And so I did not see it coming
yep.
because I wasn't prepared.
Here we had all these nurses in the room, and we're all getting, talking about it. Yeah, you heard me trying to put it together. Literally, it was within a week. All of a
It was.
sudden,
It
we
was.
were like, holy cow. Like, here we all were. That was
Yeah.
my last event for all of
Yeah.
2020 and pretty much all of 2021 too. I didn't do any traveling through either one of those
Yeah.
years again. And so that particular weekend, one, because it's you, but two, because of the exact spot it fell on the timeline, that to me is such a marker in
Right.
my speaking
Right.
career too, that fits into the long term, or I'm sorry, the bigger picture of COVID
Yeah.
and whatnot. So
Yeah.
tell me this. So you've got this conference. We're going to stop that right now. In a way, what I want you to think about is all of the nurses who've been out there doing more than they ever thought in terms of time and energy and risk, and dealing with patients that are 1,000 times worse, I'm certain, because they're so afraid. How has this impacted the nurses? And here's the key: how does that fit back into what you're offering with Next Level Nursing?
That's a great question. Nurses, we just took a beating. We took a beating, and there's a couple ways to go with it. So there was this, healthcare hero, right? Which nurses, by and large, that just pisses them off. I'm not, and I had to explain that to my son one time, like, Mom, why does that make you so mad? They're proud of you. They appreciate you. They're just trying to be nice to you. I said, son, I'm having technical difficulties here with this mop of mine. I said, son, who pays Spider-Man? Nobody pays Spider-Man. Nobody paid Superman. He had two jobs. He had a full-time job at the news company, at the newspaper with Lois Lane, and he had to be Superman on the side. Nobody paid Superman. So when you're calling me a hero, you're setting me up for free. That I'm here, and so most nurses and a lot of nurses stayed to take care of the patients, because we are wired that way, to invest and take care of our community. And then we had to do it in the beginning, without a lot of supplies, without enough supplies. And then you were taking on more patients, sicker patients. And so there was one feeling from the nurses' perspective, was that we are now doing exactly what administration has been pushing us to do, was do more with less. Less supplies, less support, less safety, all of these things. And so some of the pandemic left you feeling like you were, that nobody had your back, because we were dealing with these massive influx of sick people. And I was in the ICU, and in my particular unit in that ICU, not insulated, because we had at one point almost the whole unit was COVID.
And sidebar, Jen, you went back from telemedicine and your event company. When COVID hit, you went back. I want to just make that clear, that the transition occurred. You weren't doing this from the phone. You were back in the hospitals.
Correct. And so I wasn't in the ER. So the ER took a whole different kind of beating. There was this few months of time where the census and the patient load in the ER dropped, because people were afraid to come in.
Yeah.
But then you were getting, the people you were getting were really sick.
Yeah.
And so all of that to say that sets nurses up for this incredibly inflated stress level
Mm.
and no end in sight.
Yeah.
Like you were going through it, when the vaccine finally came out, then nurses, and we can put the conflict of and the politics of the vaccine aside, but just as a nurse, when I've been willing to go into all of this with very little PPE, not a lot of knowledge, we're learning on the fly. Everybody was learning on the fly. And then people look you in the eye and say, I don't need to get the vaccine. It felt, so you had that emotion going in there too. So then I wasn't a hero, and then it all fell. Then I wasn't a hero anymore. And now I'm making all this money. And so that makes me a shark, and I'm taking advantage,
Yeah.
which I think most nurses felt like no nurse expects to make the crisis pay that we were making, right? We're not in a crisis. No nurse expects to make those wages, but we're damn sure ready to make a fair wage now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And fair has changed.
Yeah.
So I think you're coming out with nurses who were already a little salty. And now you're like sea salt. You're like really coarse salt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to have the right grinder to soften me up, right? But and so it really has set them up for this trauma processing that we're not prepared for.
Yeah.
And they don't, because you're not taught that in nursing school. You just aren't taught that, you're not given that skill set. And most of us don't learn it in basic life either. How do I process this stress level? And so the things that we're bringing to the conference address that specifically. Some of them really directly address it, and some of it backdoors, right? And a great example of the backdoor is we have a financial wellness workshop, right? One of the biggest contributors to burnout pre-pandemic, and now I can see it as well, one of the biggest contributors was overtime. Because and myself included, I am an overtime whore, right? If I work an extra shift, and we did this, my husband, we've done this a lot. Hey, let's go to Yellowstone in the summer. Okay, you know what? I'll just crank out some overtime, and then we'll just pay for it. We won't even have to worry about it because it's easy. And then I don't have to budget for it, and then I'm not planning for it. Because God forbid we just have a plan and save and set aside, right? That's boring, and that's what grown-ups do.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but that's the biggest contributor to burnout is overtime.
Yeah.
So if you have a financial wellness plan and you're using your money wisely and you're setting it up wisely, especially as a young 20 something nurse, that's really going to set you up for your whole career.
Yeah.
Where you can, okay, you worked 36 hours that week, you did your 3 shifts. Now just go and play, go do your life, and you don't have to work overtime. Let's let your money work for you instead of the other way. Now, occasional overtime, absolutely, tear to it.
Yeah.
Every week, and a unit that is depending on people working overtime, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So some of the conference backdoors it a little bit, and some of it takes it head on. We have another author, Amelia Nagoski, who wrote a book with her sister.
New York Times bestseller, right?
That's exactly right. Yes, we're lucky to I'm so excited to have her there. And their book deals with directly how do you break the stress cycle? And it's evidence-based, which I really love because that speaks to nurses. It's the science behind it. It's not just wine in a bubble bath.
Yeah.
It's and one of the biggest things when I read the book, I was like, this is like, it would set so many nurses, especially ER nurses, right? It would set so many nurses off. One of the biggest, one of the best, most effective ways to break a stress cycle, like to complete a stress cycle and lower all of that stress level, is a 2-minute hug from someone you love. What did your brain just do thinking about me hugging somebody for 2 minutes?
Wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Wow.
Not sex. Yeah, not sex, not kissing, like hugging, like just standing there and hugging someone. And it was like, ew, right? Like
a long time. First thing I thought, that's a long
right? Yeah.
But I
hugging somebody
because it's easy than I realized. Meaning 2 minutes. Whoa. But really it's that level of change occurs in 2 minutes. Incredible.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. Because we're wired for that, right? Like, what do we do? And nurses, most of the nurses I work with are not touchy-feely, huggy nurses, but what do we do when a patient is hurting? You hold their hand. I'm the worst about brushing someone's forehead and getting their hair out of their face and
Mm.
loving on them, or just patting their head, or I pat people's feet, or I'm when you're comforting somebody, you touch them,
Yeah, that's right.
right? But most of us don't process that in terms of
For
I
ourselves.
just I just need a hug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially some salty ER nurses, right? They're not gonna, you
Yeah.
want to hug me? Fine, fine, I'll rub nipples with you, right? Like, it's not,
Right.
it's just not the,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
So those are the kinds of things that we're bringing to the conference, and a hell of a lot of fun,
Yeah.
right? Like, I can't do a 12-hour shift without laughing. I'm sure the hell not going to show up at a conference and not just fucking laugh. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about what the conference has to offer. I think it'll help a lot of nurses, whether they're looking for the help or not. I think it'll still help them. You know
And
what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
go ahead. No,
Oh,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, and I love that you're actually thinking about that you're creating something that is fun, that you know for a fact nurses need right now because you're still at the bedside. So your topics are all super relevant. There's no fluff like an administration would bring in to,
Hmm. Hmm.
a
Hmm.
formal training that they have to check off their box every year, right? Like it's
Yeah, right.
nurses needed. And even though I was pushing you to go higher, you were really insistent on keeping the price super low because you
Oh,
don't
yeah,
want that to be a barrier to
right.
is coming. So tell us where it is, tell us what the cost is, because again, you're doing this for the nurses. You're doing this to give
Yeah.
them an experience that is restorative, rejuvenating, fun, right? So
Hmm.
tell those
Yeah.
details.
So the conference is in San Antonio, Texas. It's on the Riverwalk. Marriott Riverwalk is the hotel that's hosting it. It's $129 for 2 days, and we'll have workshops both of those days, and it is October 15th and 16th. And my brain spaced the other day. It's October 14th and 15th. What the hell kind of
There you
business
go.
owner am
I
I?
got you. I
It's
got
it is October 14th and 15th, 2022, San Antonio, Texas, Marriott on the Riverwalk. And I'm super excited about it.
you.
Yeah, I think it'll be, like you're saying, I want it to absolutely be fun, and I want it to be impactful.
Yeah. And you're doing happy
Yeah,
hours and you're feeding people like crazy and you're giving out swag bags and you're doing
that's right.
freebies galore. You've got sponsors. You want to go ahead and tell us who the sponsors are real quickly?
Yeah, the one, this is kind of embarrassing, but this is the one I'm super excited about, is Tips Treats. It's a cookie company. But nurses, when we're having a bad day, or patients will send it to us, and it's such a huge difference. Like, you get this big box of cookies. Their requirement is that they have to be served warm.
Yeah.
So when we get the cookies that day for the conference, like, we have to pick them up, and the like, you have to agree, I'm gonna serve these warm.
Yes.
So I'm super excited about Tips Treats being on board. We've got MDF Instruments. They are donating stethoscopes. So we're going to raffle off four or five brand new stethoscopes for nurses. So I think that'll be fantastic, because all nurses will tell you that stethoscopes, they grow legs at some point. And I started my career with 4, and I have 1 now, I think. Yeah, 1. Yeah, and then none of the originals.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about having MDF Instruments on board. We've got some other sponsors coming on board. I have one lady that's coming as a sponsor because she wants to talk to nurses. She does health insurance. She's with United, and wants nurses to know that you don't have to stay working for a hospital for the benefits.
Mhm.
There are other affordable options out there. And we're waiting to hear back. We've applied for continuing education credits. Hopefully we'll hear about something back pretty soon here. And so that would offer continuing education credits, which is a valid preferred for preference for nurses. If I'm going to be there at my time, I'd like some CEs out of it. So, and that's fair. Yeah.
And nurses like
So we're working on that too.
booze and CEUs. And
That's right. That's
I,
right.
as a marketer, cannot wait to put that on your plastered everywhere, your socials, whatever, booze and CEUs, $129 for 2 days on the Riverwalk. I'm in. I mean, it's
Exactly.
literally
That's right.
the
CEUs and
greatest.
booze. That's
CEUs
right.
and
Yeah.
booze. That's right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're really excited about that.
And so you also have, and I have to plug this too because I do think it's really cool. You have a writing contest, and you've already had writing contests in the past where you actually
Mhm.
gave out, let's say that, not under, not over, not, yeah, gave out financial prizes to the
Yeah.
writers
Yeah.
in
Yeah. Yeah.
long
Yeah.
form, short form, and you have them on your website so people can actually download the stories from the bedside. I mean, it's
Yes. Yes.
giving an opportunity
Yeah.
to people who want to write professionally, want to get paid for their creativity if that's what they want, or just want to use it as a tool, right?
Yeah. So the session, both days will end with a creative writing session. So workshop 1 and then workshop 2. And we did that because, again, and that's another one where you're kind of backdooring it. But one of the best tools to deal with trauma and process traumatic experiences or just stressful experiences is journaling and writing.
Yep.
And so that's why we had creative writing, and that's why we did it in the first conference. And you were there, right? I knew it would appeal to a small number of people, and the nurses there loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it, right? And so when 2021 came and we couldn't all gather, that was when we came up with, let's do a writing contest.
Yeah.
So for the nurses. So yeah, we gave out $5,500 in cash prizes that year.
So
And fingers crossed we can do that again, but hopefully we can hit that amount again, but
yeah,
it'll still be cash prizes. And we have not nailed down the dates yet for that because we were just focused on the conference. We'll announce those dates at the conference. The writing conference will be at the conference. The writing contest will be announced.
yes.
And I'm super excited to have that second one as well.
Awesome.
We got some great submissions, and it's just so great to read other nurses' perspectives
Yeah.
and experiences, because you go, oh, that's right. Oh, this appealed to me. This is, one story. And honestly, it wasn't one of the winners of the story, but there was a submission, and I had to talk to, afterwards, I talked to the judges about it, not during, because I can't talk to the judges during it.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I said, so moving forward, you can judge it grammatically, you can judge it for syntax, you can judge it for, when you change going from I and me to they. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. All of those things that go into writing, and then the structure of the story, that's all important because it is a writing contest. But the story is also important. So if there's a piece that comes in that's
Not grammatically correct, perfect,
right,
moving,
you know what I mean?
and
Can
impactful.
you choose that one and offer some edits? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want nurses to not participate because they're not a writer.
Yeah.
Because we all have a story in us.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
So that's my thought process there. So I'm super excited about the projects that we have coming down the pike. Yeah. So I think, I'm just excited about it. Yeah.
And another thing that's going to be spoken about at the conference is finding a way to lead where you're at. I think that because you've got administration, because you've got, docs that are in the space that you're in, you've got a lot of people thinking that they are leadership, right? And shit rolls downhill oftentimes. And so it's really important to you to make sure that nurses are able to lead from where they're at. And what does that mean to you when you say that?
I want that workshop to focus on, to me, leadership isn't a position. Leadership is a point in time more, is how it processes in my mind. And the examples, and I've had this conversation in other settings, but the examples that I can give in my own life when I've gone through hard things and then open my mouth about it, 15 other people will come around and say, oh yeah, I had that same thing happen to me. Oh, I've been through that. Okay. Well, why were you hookers wait until I went through it all by myself, and now you're talking to me about it? Like, shit's sake. Like, let's back each other up a little bit and, be there for each other. So the times in my life where I've ventured out and spoke up, I've realized there are so many other people around me that didn't speak up because they didn't feel like they could.
Yeah.
Right. But like we were saying before, that like-minded and big groups of the same, that's why they have group therapy and support groups and all of those things, because in a group you find your footing and you feel validated. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so leading from where you are is not, to me, is not charge nurse, nurse manager, CNO, CEO. It's not a position.
Mm-hmm.
I want nurses to lead from where they are in terms of changing the nurse culture. I just had to have a conversation. I didn't have to have the conversation. I'm sure she was wishing I would have shut up. But this young nurse was really frustrated with a patient and they were fussing at each other. Oh, that's the nice word for it. They were just fighting. I was like, what the hell are you fighting with a patient for? Like, and the patient was, losing her mind and acting crazy and calling us names and all of these things. But I had to take the young nurse inside because I was calm, and she goes, how do you keep your cool like that? Like, they just made me so mad. They made me so mad. I'm like, first, like, everybody has a story, and I don't know her story. So I'm just gonna assume some things, and I'm gonna assume that on a good day, when she just didn't get the hell beat out of her with a crowbar, I'm gonna assume she's a nice person, and that we would get along. But right now, she's going through a hell of a stressful situation. She's in pain. Let's lead from where you are and lead with, and this isn't saying, this is not, it's not a fine line, but I'm not saying nurses need to put up with shit. I'm not saying they need to put up with abuse or being assaulted, because that shit happens every day. But you got to lead from where you are and set a standard that this is how we're going to treat each other. This is how we're going to treat our patients. And these are the things that I'm willing to do moving forward. And some of that is, I can't go in that room one more time. Will you go in there? Absolutely, I will.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I will. Because it is incredibly stressful. But speaking up and having that conversation with a young nurse and saying, you can't get to this point where you're so stressed that you're fighting with the patient.
Yeah.
You stand your ground, you set the standard, you set the boundaries, and then that's it. That's the end of it. We don't fight. If they don't have to comply, there's other procedures in place for that. But for us, let's set that standard and let's lead from where we are. Yeah. And not create a culture of nursing in your unit where it's unhealthy or just not productive. I guess that's probably a negative example. There's plenty of positive examples. I think I remind young nurses all the time, you got to take a break. Mm-hmm. Like, don't just work your full 12 hours and take pride that you only peed one time. Take a break. If you're stressed, you need to tell the charge nurse. You need to tell the nurse next to you, whoever your buddy is, listen, for my call lights, I got to step off the unit for 10. I've done that. I do it all the time. Like, holy crap, sometimes it's because you're emotional. Sometimes it's because you're stressed. Sometimes it's because there's a hot fireman out in the hallway, whatever. But you need, you got to set those breaks for yourself. And so I think setting that, encouraging that in young nurses also, I think leading from where you are, that's not coming from management. It's coming from just in that circle, right? So that's more what I want nurses to get out of that, is leading in your community. It doesn't have to mean that, you're running charity projects with the city library. It can be, in your sphere of influence. Yeah. How are you leading and making it okay for everybody else around you? Everybody's got a seat at your table.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And I also love that your conference is not solely focused on everything from the bedside. Yes, you do have, bias from the bedside. You do have resilience, that's going to be spoken about, and dealing with burnout and nurse negotiating, even art therapy along with the writing, right? And
right,
so really cool. I mean, I want to say there are 13 speakers right now, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because you also have this entrepreneurial panel. And your whole thing that really inspires me is that, yes, you are absolutely, here to be the very best nurse that you can be, but you can also have things in your life that allow you maybe some more interest or some more flexibility or
Yeah.
maybe a break
Yeah.
so that you love
Yeah.
your life wholly even more, right? It's not about taking
Yes.
away from the bedside. It's about creating really a broader view of what your life can be.
Absolutely. And that's what I wanted to be really clear with, is that my goal is not that nurses should leave the bedside. If you're burnout and that's where you are, absolutely take that break, because that, like I said, that made I would not have made it through the pandemic at the level that I was at if I had not stepped away for a year.
Mm.
Right. But yes, absolutely. Entrepreneurship for nurses is so great. The basic qualities of a nurse, like if you do that little project, list all the things that make a good business leader, good business person, and then list all the qualities of a nurse and then see which ones overlap, right? That is one of my favorite diagrams, right? When you see all of how that overlaps. And so I think nurses almost always have a side hustle, right? Because you don't want to work that overtime. But there you are working that overtime, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that whole circle. But so I'm super excited about the entrepreneur panel as well, because there's just so much energy in that panel
Yeah.
and information. And um, I want nurses to leave inspired and rejuvenated and ready for their next shift.
Yep. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So, hey, Jenney, can I ask you like 10 shotgun questions?
Absolutely. Like, are
Just
we shotgunning? What are we shotgunning?
right,
Oh, just speed
yeah,
questions. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Right now, it's not going to be, like Jaeger shots that we might have been doing back in the 90s. But yes, it is going
You
to be.
might have to even explain what Jaeger is to some of your
That's
audience.
true. That's true. I was watching something and I can't remember what it was. Oh, the show we're watching. Oh, it doesn't matter. But anyway, the guy drinks Kahlua and the sister's like, what human being drinks Kahlua in the 21st century? How funny is that? Like, no one is the answer. No one drinks. Kahlua is the greatest liquor that was ever created, and no one drinks it anymore. I think I'm bringing back Kahlua. I'm just going to throw that out
I
there.
think, you know what? Do it. A little Kahlua and coffee goes a long way. I'm with you right there.
I want the Kahlua and milk, no vodka for White Russian. I just want the Kahlua and milk. To me, that was the greatest drink ever invented, and poof, gone. So there you have it. I'm bringing
So
it back.
there you go. All right. Setting a trend.
Yep. What's
Leading from where you are.
That's right. Leading from where I'm at. And I will tell you that I'm probably going to get a bartender that's like, huh, old lady, what? What did you just say? Aloha?
Exactly. That's
All
funny.
right. So I'm going to ask you some questions. All I expect, I don't need an explanation. I just need you to throw whatever comes to mind. And by the way, these are quick and I am okay if you don't have an answer. Cool? Because
Got
we
it.
have not been told about any of these. And so this is going to be lots of fun. Okay, here we go. Who is your favorite woman in history? So if you were like given a chance to spend, I don't know, an hour, a day, whatever, with some woman from history, who would that be for you?
Some woman in history. I'm blanking, but I have a great grandma that I would love to go to meet.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
What's your favorite place that you've ever traveled to around the world?
I love traveling. I can't think of anywhere I hated, but if I'm leaving my home and going somewhere to be me and relax, I love my brother's house in Durango, Colorado.
Oh, and you were just there. Fantastic.
Yeah, settles me.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. You showed me pictures. It's beautiful. So if you were given $1 million to donate, where would that money go?
Probably a women's shelter.
Nice. Do you have a favorite book or a favorite podcast? Either one, not both, just either or.
I love to read. If I had to pick one book, it would be Cormac McCarthy, The Road.
Okay. What's a quirky or wacky fact about you that not a lot of people may know?
Oh, just one.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what people wouldn't know. I don't have a good answer for that. Everybody knows my quirkiness is not hideable. I got nothing. I
Okay,
say the F
that's all
word a
right.
lot, but everybody knows.
That's all right. That's all right. I've got ones like I've got an extra rib. I've got tori under my teeth,
Oh,
bones. I was
I
topless
have,
on a stage at Monsters of Rock in front of 100,000 people. Like,
oh, okay.
you know,
Okay.
fun. Mhm.
I have web toes.
You have web toes.
I have
Perfect.
two web toes.
Your
You're right. I wasn't thinking like that.
your
Yeah.
pinky to your it would it be your fourth and fifth on the outside?
Second and third.
Interesting.
Mm,
Everyone I've met are always at the
swim
end.
in a circle.
Got
Mhm.
it.
Well,
Got it. That's a good one. And by the way, the topless was not by choice. I just want to throw that out there.
I just assumed.
No, of course you did. No, it was me thinking tube tops are cool in 1989 and being
Hmm.
pulled up on stage and
There it went.
down to my
Yeah.
turned around, 100,000 people in the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Fingers went up, went for it. Just what are you going to do?
What are you gonna do?
What
What
are
are
you
you gonna do?
going to do? Right.
That's what you do.
That's
Fingers
what you
up.
do. Get your fingers up in the we will rock you. Right. Okay. So if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, I spent my whole childhood. This was our main conversation. I'm torn between being able to fly,
Huh?
or being invisible. I've never been able to decide which one I want.
No one said invisible.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good one. That's
Right. Right. I
flying
have
is the
dreams
number
I
one
can
answer
fly.
for sure. Oh, I do too.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I'm a
Yeah.
flying or invisible. Yeah.
Yeah. My ex-husband had a dream, and I'm sure this is something you've heard of before. On 9/11, the morning of that, he was flying and flew into a building, a tall skyscraper, and he could feel the glass and the fire on his body. And the funny thing is, in the dream, of course,
Right.
he wasn't really flying his body into. But
Right.
in the dream, I'm sorry, since that time, I have easily met for sure 10 people who had the same dream that morning.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know what it means,
Yeah.
but it's
We could do a whole podcast on dreams.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
on Dr. Phil about dreams. Do you know that?
Interesting. I did not know that.
So
Oh.
because I had a recurring
Yeah.
nightmare for 20 years. And I am horrified to admit this because I was anti-Phil going in. The guy is so nice. He is totally like your favorite uncle or best next door neighbor on the planet. And I was going in saying, I'm not calling him doctor. He's not a doctor. I'm calling him Phil. That was my attitude going in. And I'll be damned if the guy is fantastic. And
Yeah.
I only was going in because I was doing television hosting, my side hustle at the time.
Right.
My agent said, I think it's really important that you do this. She knew about my recurring nightmare for 22 years or 20 years, blah, blah, blah. So she said, I think it's really important that you do this because you're going to get beautiful footage and all of it matters. So I was like, but it's Phil, I don't want to go and be around fake Dr. Phil. So I go and he's so nice, totally breaks me down. Next thing I know, I'm like, what's that, Dr. Phil? Oh,
Yeah.
she's Dr. Phil. Oh, I totally understand, Dr. Phil. I'm totally an idiot. Well, then to make matters worse, I never had the dream again. I'm cured by Dr. Phil. Jenney, I'm cured by Dr. Phil. So now I only have a very small altar that is reserved for Phil in my extra room for praying and no, I'm of course kidding. But yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. I only idolize him a little bit now. Phil.
Oh,
But yeah,
that's
there you have it.
amazing.
I know.
That's good. Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast right there. Dreams are so interesting to me to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's under Jennifer Curtay because that's my old last name. And it's Dreams Dr. Phil. So there you go. There's your viewing pleasure.
All right. I will Google that.
And he and I got along so well, I have to mention this, that they cut parts of the interview. So to me, being there and experience it, because it was too long for our segment, it feels choppy to me because I'm like, that is not really the flow that we were going in. You kind of didn't finish that part, but there you have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the
Oh,
internet
that's funny.
forever. But luckily I'm Jen Buck again, so most people don't see it. Thank you. There you go. All my listeners and viewers can go and look. All right. So here's another cool question for you. What will be your theme song when you are having a conference that is the size of that event we were at, 34,000 people in the audience. It's at some huge, space. What's your theme song when you're walking on stage?
So my daughters and I dance in the bathroom, and sadly, from a very young age, we danced. I taught them to dance and appreciate and love ushers. Yeah.
Yeah.
My girls were like, "What are double D's?" Don't worry about it. Just dance, girl.
Yeah. I was sure you were going to say something like Boogie in the Butt, or she's got, baby's got back. I knew you were going to say something that was inappropriate.
I do love some fat bottom girls, but
Yes.
on the stage, my girls and I, if that comes on, my girls know, I'll just turn it up and my girls would know to come to the bathroom.
Yep.
It's time for a dance party.
Got it.
Yeah.
I knew it. So double D's, not surprised one bit. Okay. So what's one big thing you want to accomplish before you're done working?
Before I'm done working, gosh. Before I'm done work, I just want to leave a legacy, not for the world, but for my kids.
Nice.
In whatever form that is.
Beautiful. What's the best word to describe you?
Asshole? No, is that wrong? Is that wrong? That's wrong. A different word?
No, but you know what is right? What's correct about it though is that it's so perfectly your personality to have said that humorous, funny, sarcastic, hysterical, like these are the words that come to mind. But you are not an asshole. I mean, at least not true blue asshole. It's more sarcastic asshole. So there you have it.
Yes, very, very true.
So do you have a word that might fit?
I think I'm really kind, but I don't think that's what people would tag me with.
Yeah.
Probably more real, I guess, authentic, probably.
Yeah.
Like I say kind, I guess, because I think I truly care about the guy next to me.
Yeah, you do. So, all right, last one. Finish this sentence. When I'm really, really old, I hope to see
my kids around my bed.
Nice. I had a woman say, to see. No, and I was like, no, finish the sentence. When I'm really, really old, I hope to see. And she was like, to see. I was like, okay, yeah, go on the uptake, but I'm tracking now. Yeah, and
I do. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm the kind of old women that my kids still want to come around.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
for sure.
Or the complete opposite. I'm just a crazy bitch and nobody even wants to talk to me. I'm totally fine with either one, maybe.
Got it. There may be joy in both, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
My gosh. So Jen, this has been such a pleasure. And before I told you we're not going to do an hour. I think it's like
I know. I just looked at my clock. I'm like, shit, I gotta shorten my answers.
I know, but that's okay. This has been fun because I have a history with you, because I have a present with you. This is fun. So I'm glad we did it. So
thanks for having me. This is so great.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I just want to make sure that you tell people where to find you and where they can.
Oh, absolutely.
It's on the October 14th and 15th.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the website is Next Level RN, NEXTLEVELRN.com. And you can register on the website. Instagram is Next Level with no vowels, NXTLVLRN. And Facebook is Next Level Nursing. Yeah. So all of those places, you can find a link to get to the website and register for the conference. Bring a damn friend. Nobody wants to go alone. Yeah. And if you're alone, we'll make a friend. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think I
am too.
Hope to see you there.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And then also we're launching a contest. So anybody who registers by September 16th is going to be put into a drawing for a free buddy pass to the concert. Because I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing my face off to the conference. Yes. Where I'll be topless with my hands up. That's right.
That's right.
Glad that happened in the 90s, because if it was was this day I'd have to hacky sack across the stage.
Yes, right. Right. Oh my God. Oh, it's so bad. And yeah, I think tomatoes would probably fly too.
Right. Right. There you go.
Nobody
There you
wants
go.
to see any of this. So yes, I will make sure that I link everything into the
Awesome.
show notes so that you can all easily get connected to Jenney. 129 for 2 days, San Antonio Riverwalk, food galore. The woman knows how to feed her people, happy hours, prizes, swag bags, all sorts of crazy things. So the content is absolutely off the hook too. And the amount of nurses that you've brought in to do the speaking, professionals from different environments. You've got people who are doing this legal nurse consulting as well as being
Yeah.
an attorney to help people, women negotiate. I mean, it's just extraordinary, the level of talent that you've brought in. So I'm excited to
Yes.
be there. I'm thrilled that you were here. And my friend, go back and enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm sure we will be talking in the next
Yeah.
days.
Yes, we will. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And everybody else, we'll see you at the next episode. And thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.